Basically, the principle here is very important. It's a constitutional principle. We have to understand that rights are those things given to us by God that cannot be taken away by the government. Rights are not those things that the government, by its largesse and by the work of the people via their taxes, must give us. And we're seeing that rights have been transformed, and rights are now considered to be those things that we must be given, not those things that we cannot have taken away, given by God. The bottom line is that we have to understand, first and foremost, that the principles enshrined in the Constitution. In terms of whether health care is a right, obviously by what I've said, health care is not a right. Health care is a responsibility of each and every citizen to make sure that they are able to, that they do have health care for themselves and their family. Health care in America is not broken. It's the method of payment for medical care that needs a little bit of tweaking, and we're not talking about throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. So basically I have some proposals that would really bring health care and medical care insurance back to where it should be. The first thing that's going to scare everybody is when they hear that I say that we should get rid of Medicare and Medicaid. The reason for that is because we can find through any number of studies done that Medicare and Medicaid have actually increased the cost of medical care for people in the United States, especially for those who are over 65 and who are poor. So rather than decreasing dependence, as Medicare and Medicaid was claimed to have done, was supposed to have done, they've actually increased dependence. But instead of that dependency being on their own families and being on their churches and being on charities, the dependence has become to be that on government and on the taxpayer. And so, in fact, if you look at the studies done by the Congressional Budget Office, we see that Medicare and Medicaid, which began in 1965, until that time, from the beginning of the 20th century, medical care costs stayed approximately level and followed very closely the Consumer Price Index. But after 1965, and especially after 1973 with the Health Maintenance Organization Act of 1973, healthcare costs diverged markedly from the Consumer Price Index and have continued to rise precipitously. The bottom line is this: we need to put medical care back into the hands of the people and take it out of the government. The first thing, as I mentioned, is to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid. I'm not saying that we need to get rid of any help that poor people may need to get medical care, but we don't need an entire system set up to provide medical insurance to those people. What we need is a similar thing to what we do with food stamps. When people require help in purchasing medical insurance, we give them health stamps, as opposed to having an entire system that is completely untenable and costs us in the near $1 trillion a year amount for Medicare and Medicaid, including federal and state money. The second thing we have to do is to realize that a lot of the regulatory agencies that we have, government-wise, have pushed the price of medical care beyond the reach of many people. The third thing is to understand that the government is the 800-pound gorilla, and the independent private insurance companies are the fleas on the 800-pound gorilla. And nothing could be done by the insurance companies, those supposedly evil insurance companies, that had not been done initially by Medicare and is not promoted by the federal government. Fourthly, we need to take the regulations regarding taxes for payment for medical care and revamp those completely to make it as cheap and inexpensive for Americans to purchase independent medical care as it is for their employers to do so. And that would uncouple people from the constant dependence that people have on their employers and give them a really free market choice. When you look at what happens currently, separate from Medicare and Medicaid, and look at the private medical care situation, people are forced to go through their employers for the medical insurance, instead of the employers giving them a dollar amount and allowing them to purchase medical care on the open market. And what that does is it means that only one or two people in a company are the ones who decide what medical insurance is purchased by everyone within that company. This is not free market. This is not free choice. This is the government rules and regulations which promote dependence on your employer until you're 65, and dependence on the government after 65, and now dependence right through life. So there are certain principles that can be followed, very easy principles. We don't need a 1,500-page bill. We don't need to revamp the system. We don't need to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We need simple regulation changes, simple rule changes, and getting government out of the administration and the provision of medical care in this country, and we will see medical care costs reduce to the level they were before, in the sense that they will follow the consumer price index and not be artificially altered by government intervention.